Good evening. Thanks for coming tonight. We're very pleased to have our finance ministers meeting start tonight. We're starting, I think, as you may know, with a dinner with the finance ministers from all the provinces and territories. And then tomorrow we have a full day of meeting. Both myself and Minister Fortier will be looking forward to having a good set of discussions with the finance ministers. As you know, each December we have this meeting. The agenda is relatively consistent. We like to start by getting a sense of the economy, both the economy in each province and territory, and the overall economy, get a sense of how it's going across Canada, as well as a broader context for what we're seeing internationally. Then, of course, we have some issues of national concern that we want to talk about, the Canada Pension Plan and how it can be enhanced potentially for the benefit of Canadians. And some things that we know are important, things like beneficial ownership, which allow us to ensure that that we're managing the corporate sector in a way that makes sense, creating opportunity without risks. So we're looking forward to that, as well as some of the things that are important to some provinces, things like the Stabilization Fund that has been brought up by Alberta and other provinces will be important agenda items. Donc, nous avons une soirée ce soir avec les ministres des Finances pour commencer notre rendez-vous. Et demain, on va prendre la journée aussi pour discuter la situation au niveau économique à travers le pays. Et bien sûr, on va avoir les enjeux très importants comme le régime de pension du Canada et comment nous pouvons assurer que notre système fonctionne dans un bon sens. À mon avis, ça va être un rendez-vous intéressant. Je vais être à l'écoute, comme je suis certain ministre Fortier va être aussi, pour assurer que nous écoutons la situation à travers le pays et discuter comment nous pouvons améliorer la situation à travers le Canada, mais en même temps dans les provinces où nous avons en ce moment quelques défis. So with that, I'll pass it over to my colleague.
Merci, Ministre Morneau. Oui, moi, je ne suis pas très grande. Alors, ça me fait un grand plaisir de pouvoir participer à ma première rencontre des ministres des Finances et j'ai bien hâte de collaborer et de discuter avec mes collègues. J'ai hâte aussi de voir comment on va pouvoir continuer à mettre une lentille pour la prospérité économique et aussi avoir une approche inclusive pour s'assurer qu'on concentre sur la classe moyenne et ceux et celles qui veulent s'y joindre. I'm very happy to be part of this first ministers meeting for me, and I can't wait to have conversations with the ministers of the provinces and territories and talk about inclusive growth and how we can continue to increase the quality of life of the middle class and those wanting to join it. I'm looking forward to having that conversation and presenting how we can continue to increase inclusive growth in our economy. Merci.
Hi, Minister Morneau. I understand that the provinces and the territories have made a unanimous proposal to you on changing the fiscal stabilization program. Have you assessed what is being proposed by your provincial and territorial counterparts, and what's your reaction to it?
Well, no, we have not yet assessed because we haven't actually had one-on-one discussions. I did have the opportunity to speak with the Alberta Finance Minister last week. We had a good discussion. I'm looking forward to hearing from the other ministers from across the country. Obviously, this program hasn't been changed since 1995, so we are open-minded with respect to how it works or the changes that people might propose. And once we have those, we'll take that into consideration and do some analysis of our own.
But is there have you received a unanimous proposal from them, or is that something that comes tomorrow, or has it already been sent to your department for consideration?
Well, I'll be happy to report back to you tomorrow. I don't have one in my top pocket here, but I sense that when there's a program that provides money from the federal government to the provinces, that there tends to be some sense of unanimity that having more money is better than having less.
Noël de Radio-Canada. Je crois comprendre, cependant, même de votre côté, qu'il y a une ouverture à augmenter le plafond à 60 $ par personne. Parce que 60 $ par personne, ça fait longtemps que ça n'a pas été mis à jour. Quelle est votre marge de manœuvre pour augmenter ce plafond-là?
Donc, ce que j'ai dit, je voudrais écouter les ministres et leur perspective au sujet du fonds de stabilisation. Nous n'avons pas encore fait une analyse. En ce moment, c'est très important de considérer leur approche, considérer aussi les autres enjeux, de savoir c'est quoi le plus important pour chaque province. Donc, ça, c'est très important. J'ai pas eu l'occasion d'écouter. Donc, ce soir, demain, va être très important pour moi et je crois que pour tous les autres gens qui sont ici pour considérer notre façon d'améliorer la situation.
Savoir ce qui est plus important pour chacune des provinces. Qu'est-ce que vous avez en tête quand vous dites ça?
Ce que je peux dire, quand j'ai été avec le ministre des Finances d'Alberta il y a une semaine, il m'a dit plusieurs choses. Et il m'a dit, donc c'est très important le oléoduc Trans Mountain, par exemple. C'est important le fonds de stabilisation. C'est très important une remediation of the oil wells. Donc, je voudrais comprendre la situation pour chaque province. Et avec l'information, on peut faire une analyse et ça va nous donner une approche pour considérer les prochaines étapes.
Hi, Minister. Noah Richardson from CTV National News. I just wanted to ask you, given the fact that in the ministerial mandate letters which came out
Hi, Rod. How are you? Nice to see you.
which hello, Minister, which came out last week, there is a great deal of discussion around implementing national Pharmacare. It was in the mandate letter for Minister Haidu, also in the mandate letter for Deputy Prime Minister Freeland. I'm just wondering, are you prepared at this time to begin having those conversations with your provincial counterparts about how to establish a national universal Pharmacare plan?
I think what's important is for us to see what's on the ministers' agendas themselves. I expect we will have a discussion about healthcare. We've been really clear that we want to make sure that we follow through on what we discussed in our campaign, and that's making sure the system works, that people have access to primary care doctor, that we have access to services for home care and for mental health care. And as well, we've been really clear that we think that universal access to pharmaceuticals is the unfinished business of our healthcare system. So we'll be listening to see what those next steps are. We realize that anything we're going to do in healthcare requires us to work together with the provinces. So it would be presumptuous for me to conclude on what we'll actually be doing until I hear from my colleagues.
I should ask you, though, given the projected deficit, do you expect there to be an interest in having those types of conversations, given the deficit that is forecasted for the next fiscal year? Do you expect that the provinces will be on board in terms of having conversations about spending money for a program like Pharmacare?
I expect that the provinces probably spend more time thinking about their own fiscal situation than our fiscal situation. So I'm not sure that that will be their relevant consideration when they think about what we want to talk about. But again, I'm going to listen to what their perspective is before I conclude. And I do hope that we move forward on the discussions around an approach to universal pharmacare in the near future. But I can't say that that's going to be necessarily on everyone's mind tomorrow.
M. Morneau, avec les chiffres que vous avez présentés ce matin, les déficits plus élevés que prévus, est-ce que vous avez encore de la marge de manœuvre pour acquiescer aux demandes que vos homologues des provinces vont vous faire au niveau de la santé? Avez-vous une marge de manœuvre encore?
Ce que vous avez vu aujourd'hui est que nous avons fait des investissements importants dans les gens avec une réduction d'impôts. Ça va donner une sens de croissance économique important. À mon avis, on continue d'avoir une marge de manœuvre, bien sûr. On doit continuer avec notre approche, nos promesses dans la campagne sont très importantes. Mais en même temps, on va écouter, comme j'ai dit, pour assurer que nous pouvons travailler avec nos partenaires dans les provinces et territoires. Donc, jusque nous avons eu les discussions, je ne peux pas dire, je n'ai pas une vraie réponse, mais pour moi, je crois que nous avons une marge de manœuvre.
Vous avez peut-être encore de l'argent pour les provinces.
On va considérer les prochaines étapes après nos discussions. Thank you. Merci. Eric.
Great to have this opportunity for our first meeting of this new minority government, and I know I'm looking forward, along with my other provincial colleagues, to a very constructive discussion, to getting a chance to have both federal ministers. Just had the chance to meet the new minister for the first time, and am well acquainted with Minister Morneau, but let them hear from a provincial perspective about areas that we are focused on. Certainly the fiscal stabilization, which was something that came out of the COF meeting and the Premier's discussion, as well the Canada health transfers, an important area of focus for all the provinces. So very much looking forward to that conversation, and happy to answer a few questions before dinner.
Hi, Minister Phillips. David Cochran with CBC News. Have the provinces and the territories made a unanimous recommendation on how to change the fiscal stabilization program to the federal government? Have you got it down to that level of detail? David,
we have had a very constructive call that was actually organized by the minister from Saskatchewan last week. I think we have something to put forward that's a great starting point. It reflects particularly the emphasis that Alberta and Saskatchewan and Newfoundland and Labrador have brought forward. And I think it's a really great example of how we can work together collectively, and we look forward to having a discussion about it. I thank Minister Morneau for putting it on the agenda, which was a request that we made, and obviously the federal government will need a chance to look at it, to evaluate it, and to then respond.
Something you expect a decision or an agreement on coming out of these meetings, or is it something where you start it here and it gets punted to the First Minister's table for the new year?
I don't want to predetermine what kind of progress we might make tomorrow, but I think the important message is whether it comes to the Canada health transfer, it comes to issues on infrastructure, it comes to the important issues that relate to our northern territories, or to fiscal stabilization, that all the provinces have gotten together and said these are some of the priorities we'd like this minority government to deal with. And again, we appreciate that the minister put fiscal stabilization on the agenda. I'm sure the other topics will come up as well.
Minister, Christian Noël with Radio-Canada. Would that be fair to say that that proposal includes some changes in the resource sector and the way it calculates the stabilization and finance fiscal program?
I won't speak about the specific details, but I think what you can assume is that it reflects the complexity of Canada's economy today. From an Ontario perspective, we understand the challenges particularly that are happening in the West, in our Western provinces, and we want to help facilitate a conversation and be part of a conversation that assists directly with some of the challenges that they've faced most recently. But as I say to my colleagues in Ontario, this is also the sort of program that at different times in the history of our country, different provinces could need to take advantage of. So it does reflect some of the specific areas of concern, particularly from Newfoundland and Labrador, particularly from Saskatchewan, particularly from Alberta. But I think we have to look at this as a nation-building opportunity and something that all the provinces should be supporting, because we need to be aware those challenges could be ours tomorrow.
I think it would be a surprise if you asked for the cap to go higher, right?
Certainly that's one of the key demands, particularly from Alberta, and Ontario supports that. Again, I won't presuppose tomorrow's conversations, but fair to say that I think there is a need for more to be done in circumstances where provinces are facing the kind of challenges that our Western friends have been facing over the last short while.
Hi, Minister. Noah Richardson from CTV National News. Just wanted to ask for your reaction to today's fiscal update delivered by Minister Morneau. The $27 billion deficit, and if that deficit, the projected deficit, will change the way that you frame conversations that you have with your counterparts tomorrow.
Well, the parliamentary budget officer has pointed out the relative strength of the federal fiscal position. Obviously, the minister's update today indicated some changes. I don't think those changes were a surprise for those of us who followed the decisions around the public sector pension accounting and been following interest rates. But you know, I think one of the things that has been very clearly articulated by all the premiers, and I think been reciprocated in terms of the Prime Minister, is the need to listen to the needs of the provincial governments. We obviously are in a position where we are the deliverer of most of the services that Ontarians and Albertans and Quebecers and all Canadians rely on, whether that's healthcare or education or the sort of social service transfer. In particular, as relates to the Canada health transfer, this is an area where certainly from I think our collective perspective, but I'll speak for Ontario, it's very important that that if we are going to be able to address the kind of concerns that I know federal MPs hear about and certainly MPPs hear about, we will need more support from the federal government. We're looking forward to that conversation. Yes. Hello.
From a provincial and territorial perspective, is Pharmacare, national Pharmacare, a priority? Is it something you even want to discuss at this point?
You know, it is a two-way conversation that we're having, and obviously we'll be talking about a variety of items. I suspect, as Minister Morneau said, healthcare will come up. In particular, our Minister of Health and Deputy Premier Christine Elliott has spoken about the rare and orphan disease drugs that are a significant cost. As just one example of some areas, that cost is over $100 million in the province of Ontario, and now over 1,000 individuals. So there's certainly room for conversations there. Minister Elliott is going to be chairing this year the health minister's version of this. So I think you can expect that conversation to happen there. And again, we'll look forward to hearing tomorrow what Minister Morneau and his colleague have to say. Okay. Thank you very much.
Bonjour, Éric Girard, c'est un plaisir d'être ici. Est-ce que vous auriez des questions?
Girard, qu'est-ce que le Québec souhaite obtenir du fédéral dans cette rencontre?
D'abord, ces rencontres-là sont toujours une occasion de se rencontrer et d'échanger sur divers sujets. Mais c'est certain que le Québec a des demandes historiques au niveau des transferts, du transfert canadien en santé. Nous aimerions que ce transfert représente 25% des dépenses en santé du gouvernement du Québec. Et nous sommes autour de 21% présentement. Alors, c'est une demande historique. Bien sûr, nous l'avons dit, nous supportons la demande des provinces de l'Ouest et de Terre-Neuve pour des modifications au programme de stabilisation. Une flexibilité additionnelle au niveau de l'utilisation des fonds fédéraux en infrastructure. Et finalement, c'est certain que le sujet de la taxation du numérique des biens et services étrangers est un sujet qui est important pour nous.
Après les chiffres que M. Morneau nous a dévoilés aujourd'hui, vous les avez vus sans doute. Sentez-vous qu'Ottawa a la marge de manœuvre pour acquiescer à ces demandes-là, de vous et des autres? J'ai
effectivement pu le lire, consulter les chiffres. Je pense que le changement principal est au niveau du passif des caisses de retraite. Alors, c'est une modification. Pour le reste, l'essentiel, les chiffres sont dans le même ordre de grandeur que ce que nous connaissions. Et bien sûr, nous saluons la baisse d'impôts pour tous les contribuables ou la majorité des contribuables. Et je pense que les Québécois apprécient la baisse d'impôts.
Hello, Minister. Do you think there can be an agreement on the fiscal stabilization program here at these meetings, or is this something that's going to require more time and a First Minister's meeting to get done?
Well, I think the fact that the topic has been prioritized speaks to the importance of this topic for those that have requested it. And Quebec supports the demand that have been made by Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Newfoundland and Labrador. So the fact that it's on the agenda is a testament to its importance. Whether a deal, this is only my second federal provincial. I didn't see a deal last year. Do not expect one tomorrow, but.
M. Gérard Christian Noël de Radio-Canada.
Oui.
Dites-moi d'abord pourquoi vous supportez la demande notamment de l'Alberta dans l'augmentation du programme de stabilisation financière et quelle serait une compensation per capita qui serait moderne?
En fait, si on regarde la compensation, je pense qu'elle n'a pas été indexée depuis 30 ans. Alors, simplement prendre le niveau per capita et l'indexer pour la période depuis qu'elle est fixe représenterait un ajustement, en tout cas, justifié. D'une part. Pourquoi nous le supportons? Parce que chaque programme fédéral a un sens, une justification et une logique. Et ce programme de stabilisation vise à compenser les provinces qui ont subi une baisse de revenus subite. Et c'est exactement ce qui s'est passé avec la baisse des cours de l'énergie qu'on a vécu en 2015-2016. Et en raison du plafond, les compensations ont été faibles en proportion de l'impact qu'il y a eu. Alors donc, toutes les provinces, je crois, dans l'histoire du programme ont déjà bénéficié de ce programme. Et je pense que le plafond soit indexé, c'est une demande légitime.
Au niveau de la taxation des géants du Web,
oui.
Notamment, vous trouvez qu'Ottawa va pas assez vite, trop vite, s'attacher à l'OCDE, pas s'attacher à l'OCDE? Vous aimeriez qu'il fasse quoi?
Mais je pense que c'est très important de distinguer entre la taxe de vente et l'impôt des sociétés. La taxe de vente, au niveau des provinces, nous avons le pouvoir de l'imposer. Nous avons commencé au Québec à imposer la taxe de vente sur les biens intangibles ou les services et nous avons indiqué que dans le prochain budget, nous allions procéder avec les biens ou les biens tangibles. Et donc, pour nous, c'est important de collaborer avec le fédéral. C'est nettement, au niveau de l'équité pour les entreprises canadiennes et québécoises, c'est beaucoup mieux si la taxe provinciale et la taxe fédérale de vente s'appliquent. Et donc, la priorité, c'est la taxe de vente. Ensuite, pour ce qui est de l'impôt des sociétés, on a 120 pays de l'OCDE qui ont une solution qui a été proposée au G20 et cette solution a été entérinée par les ministres des Finances du G20. Et là, c'est les négociations qui vont amener à l'impôt des sociétés. Et évidemment, c'est complexe. Là-dedans, il y a tout l'aspect de la répartition géographique des revenus des multinationales. Et ensuite, qui va arbitrer ça? Parce qu'il va y avoir des différends. Alors, l'impôt des sociétés, c'est un problème qui est complexe. Alors, c'est pour ça qu'on le travaille d'une manière multilatérale.
Hi, Minister. I know you're here to talk about financial matters in the economy, but I did want to ask you about Bill 21. The Manitoba Premier has said it's the erosion of basic human rights. I just want to ask you if you feel that will impact your ability to work cooperatively with the other premier, specifically the other minister, specifically the Minister of Finance for Manitoba, at these meetings.
Actually, I work very well with all finance ministers. I've met many of them. I've met Mr. Fielding. I visited him last fall. I was in the Maritime recently. I speak quite often with Mr. Morneau. I'm working very well with all finance ministers. Merci beaucoup.